song. Well, anyways, maybe not theme song, but I'm in a really good mood. Do you know why? I think I fixed my glitch. Shh, shh. Don't tell the glitch it's not invited to the party. But I got a very long 25-foot cord and I plugged it in over there and I ran it all the way over here. I plugged it in and behind there and I did a test run for a long time. I even took a dump in the middle of it. I know I'll say anything. I took a dump in the middle of it and came back. And then I watched it on fast forward. You're very lucky I didn't bring the computer with me. And I came back and 24 minutes had passed. I did a little more talking when I came back. And everything was good. So I think I fixed the glitch. So I'm really happy. And because in order to celebrate the end of our third week, I am going to take questions. So if you have questions, you can write them in the live chat and I'll take some questions. Serious questions only. Don't try to fuck me up. And I want to say that this is the end of our third week. So tomorrow is our third anniversary. Friday was my starting date. Third anniversary. It's very exciting. You're still here. I'm very glad that you are. And so I'm going to invite people because it's Friday and it's our anniversary. Maybe we should dress up. I'm going to try to wear something extra special. And I invite you to have, a little dress up party because it's nice to feel like you're going out on the town. You could even walk outside and come in a different door or walk outside and come back in the same door if you only have one door. You could climb out the window and come in the door. That could work. Unless you're up 2 stories or up, right? Don't do that. So today on Have I Told You the One About? Have I told you the one about my near abduction? In order to understand this story, or in order to get the best out of this story, you need to know a little bit about Michael Payne, who was my best friend growing up. Michael and I lived across the street from each other when he lived in the back. His parents owned a little store, a convenience store. There were 2 convenience stores side by side, and they were right across the street. It was a busy street. It was that 12th or 9th? Who cares? Whatever. It was in Cornwall. It was a busy street. And the one store, who knows who was in it, they were kind of crabby. We didn't really like the owners. But the other store had Michael's parents, and they were really great. I think it was his grandparents that owned it, and they lived there. Anyways, Michael would be there. We met when we were 3 years old. I remember going in and there being a boy who lived there. That was Michael. And then when we were 7, we moved away. We only lived there for a year or something. We bought a house and we moved away. And at 7, I started bowling. I was in the YBC Youth Council, the Youth Bowling Council, in Cornwall, Ontario. For 7 years, I bowled 5-pin. I was terrible at it. My sister was really good. It comes through my dad's side. My grandmother, Smith, was really good, and Dad was really good. And my sister was really good, and I was not very good. In fact, they promoted me to a higher league because you had different ranks of league. And then Mr. Julian had to come over and tell me that I was demoted because I wasn't getting good enough scores. So I had to go back down to the loser league. Oh, that was I tried really hard not to cry. I was telling myself, don't cry. Anyways, Michael and I would bowl, we weren't on the same team, but we would both bowl. And I had known him when we were 3, so I remembered him. His parents remembered me, and I remembered him. And so we were palsy, and we would hang out at the bowling alley. Well, then he stopped bowling. He only bowled for a few years, but he didn't live very far away. I know, my wig is pretty serious today, right? Okay, I'm sorry to get distracted, but I can tell that you're adoring me. I can feel the love coming through the internets. This wig. I made it. So Michael lived in the neighborhood, and I didn't know that, but they moved to Renal Street, which was about 3 blocks away. And one day I was getting ready to do my paper route and I ran into Michael, and I was like, "Oh, you live nearby?" And he's like, "Yeah, I totally live nearby. I just live 3 blocks up that way." And his family was French. He spoke English, but his family was French, so he went to the French school. So he didn't go to the same school as me, even though we lived in the same neighborhood. So I got my first friend who wasn't a friend that I met through school, and that was Michael Payne. He was a year older than me, and Michael was just all kinds of trouble. I think we started hanging out. I think I ran into him when I was around 10. He wasn't bad trouble. He didn't, hurt people. He just had a habit of, he sort of had Murphy's Law touch. If he could break it, it would. He went through eyeglasses. His parents finally got him these eyeglasses that had these springy arms. The whole arms were springy, and they would wrap right around your ears. Why was my phone going off? And they'd wrap right around your ears, so you couldn't break them, and he broke them. Like, he broke everything. When contacts came out, his parents got him contacts right away because it was like, slam bam, thank you, ma'am. No more glasses having to buy. And like, we would go out on these adventures when we were teenagers. He was a year older than me, so he could drive sooner. And he stalled the car once on the drive out to Glen Walter, out of town where I was living. And he stalled the car trying to do a 3-point turn. So he was he was on both lanes of traffic. The car stalled. It was on a big curve in the road. And so we suddenly saw lights coming around the curve. And I was like, Michael, you have to get the car going now. Because people drove like 70 on that road easily. It was a 50 and people drove 70. Sometimes we drove 80 or 90. Especially when my first boyfriend and I would go for blowjobs and we'd try to get home at 4 a.m. and we would drive 100. So hopefully there was nobody who needed to get home because they got a blowjob. Anyways, he got the car going. We didn't die. But Michael just had a habit of things going wrong. He used to love to run across, he'd run across people's lawns and jump over their hedge without knowing what was on the other side of it. And he was like, yeah, we were like, Michael, you're going to kill yourself. Like, what if you land on a post or something? He said, well, I guess that's part of the thrill. That was Michael Payne. Oh my God, Michael Payne. So we were around 10 when we started hanging out again, because that's when I had my paper route and he'd go with me on the paper route and we would just gab. And he lived just around the corner from the Dairy Queen. I've always been, Dairy Queen. Hello. And I've always been crazy about Dairy Queen. I remember when I started going for blizzards, when was it? Like maybe 4 years ago? It was the 40th anniversary. No, was it? Oh, how long ago was it? Maybe it was more than that. Maybe it was 10 years ago. Anyways, there was the 30th anniversary of the blizzard. And I was like, oh yeah, it had to have been more than. Anyways, but I knew it was the 30th anniversary because I remember when blizzards came out. And I've been eating the same blizzard my entire life. And when the anniversary came, I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll try to eat a different blizzard. Just, it's been 30 years of eating the same blizzard. And so I ordered another flavor and I was like, fuck that. Why would I order anything other than the thing I really love? I'm a loyal person to ice cream, people, and dirty jokes. So Michael lived around the corner from the Dairy Queen, which I think really helped our relationship. And I had money from my paper route and he had his own paper route. And so we would go to the Dairy Queen and get ice cream. And then the apartment complex was next door. And we would try to get into the apartment complex after somebody so we could go down the stairs and crawl in behind where there was just a little cubby. And we would eat our ice cream in there and be quiet when people came through. And it was very exciting. There was nothing to it, but we thought it was great. And I just became family and he became family. We just became brothers. I called his mom. I remember his sister, she was a year older than my sister. So we had similar lives because he had a sister the same age, a year older than my sister, and he was a year older than me. So we had similar family dynamics or relationships or whatever. I remember one time being in the pool and Leanne, his sister, was in the pool with her girlfriends and Michael and I were in the pool and her girlfriends were trying to steal my bathing suit and pull my bathing suit off. I was like, I know I'm supposed to find this erotic, but it's just terrifying and humiliating. Anyways, now whenever I go home, I always go to the Payne's house, like Leanne Payne's house, and we play cards and I hang out and I see her mom, and Michael lives in Taiwan. We've been friends forever. So just so you know who Michael Payne is when I'm telling you this story. And Michael and I hung out for a couple years, and then my parents got separated and we had to move, and we moved into a new place really far away. And we were such good friends, we maintained our relationship for those 2 years when I didn't live near him anymore. That was grade 7 and 8. Those are hard years, right? It's easy to end up with other friends who are in proximity. And we managed to keep up. And then in grade 9, he came to my high school. He came to the English school instead of the French one, which was really great. Maybe he switched in grade 10 or 11. Anyways, we hung out. Oh yeah, great. He switched in grade 11. But we hung out anyways that whole time. And in that time, in grade 9, my mom left my dad for good. My parents got back together and for 2 years. My mom left my dad for good, and soon, like 6 months later, she ended up with my stepdad, John, and soon after that, we moved in with him. It was quite fast and furious, but they're still together. That was a long time ago, right? So I lived in Glen Walter, which was probably 20 minutes drive out of town. There was nothing in between there and where I lived. It was probably like half an hour from downtown. It was like easily half an hour from where Michael lives, more than that. Uh, so we would still hang out. He'd come out and he'd pick me up in his car when he was 16. But when I first moved there, when I was in grade 9, he was only 15 and I was 14. So neither of us could drive. So I'm 14, he's 15. We went to the movies at the mall, at the Brookdale Mall. And I don't remember what movie it was. It was kind of probably an animated film, is my guess. That's my guess. Who knows what it was? But Michael and I we would go to the movies all the time because we were the kids who had money because we had jobs. And I, he's the one who got me the job at the gas station when I talked to you the other day about uh, the, the oil thieves. Uh, so I was 14, he was 15. We come out of the movie, whatever it was. And when we were walking out of the cinema, we were just leaving. There was this guy who was a couple paces ahead of us, who was probably like 32, and he had strawberry blonde hair and he had a nice build. Like in hindsight, he was a handsome guy. And he was just talking to us about the movie. He was like, "Oh, what'd you think of that film? I thought it was funny. It was really cute when that thing happened, right? That little whatever it was." And we were just chit-chatting with him. And we had to walk out. The mall had closed at that point. It was 9 o'clock at night. It was starting to get dark. And we had to walk out the side door, and the cinemas were always in the back. You couldn't go through the mall anymore. They closed it off. So you had to go out through the side door, and then you had to walk in the parking lot all the way to the front to get to leave the grounds. So you were in behind the mall. So he talked to us the whole way, and he offered us a ride. And we both said, no, we don't need a ride. We were going to walk to Michael's house, and then his uh, mother was going to drive me out, or maybe my mom was going to pick me up. Oh, I think it was my sister was going to come get me and drive me home. Anyway, somebody was going to give me a ride from Michael's house. And he said, well, it's no big deal for me to drive you home. And I said, oh, no, I actually live far away. And he was like, okay, well, whatever. You guys have a good night. But I was kind of tempted. And when he walked away, I said to Michael, should we get a ride from him? Michael was like, I don't know. I'm like, he seemed like a nice guy. And, it'd be easier. And he was like, I just don't think so. And I'm like, okay, you're right. He's a stranger's a stranger. Like, you don't get into a car even at 14 with strangers. Well, we walk out the door and he's gotten in his car and he slowly pulls up beside us and rolls the window down and he says, are you sure you guys don't want to ride? And then I thought, well, I'm glad we talked about it because now I know that neither of us really want to ride. We're clear. And we said, no, we're okay. And he said, are you sure I can give you a ride to your house? And then I said, look, I live out of town and it's in Glen Walter. And then he was like, oh, Glen Walter. He goes, well, I could drive you to Glen Walter and I could drive your friend home. And if you wanted, your friend could come with me all the way to Glen Walter and then I could drive him back. Like, I'm perfectly fine doing that. And that's like more than a half hour's drive. I was like, that's weird. Like, why would somebody do that? For what reason? And I said, no, I have a ride at Michael's house. We're fine. He was like, oh, Michael. And then he used his name. He was like, Michael, I want to ask you a question. Why don't you guys get in the car so I can ask you a question? And we're like, no, we're not getting in your car. And he was like, oh yeah, come on, just get in the car. I'm just going to ask you a question. I just want to ask you a question. It's fine. And we're like, no, we're not getting in your car. We don't need to get in your car for you. Why don't you just ask us the question? And then he leans over and he opens the door and he pushes the passenger side door open. And he says, well, I just can't talk to you through the car. Like it. And then we were like, well, why don't you get out of the car? He goes, well, it's warm in here. I'm like, okay, it's like summertime. It's not cold out. It's not cold outside. So we say, look, we're not going to get in your car. We're going to walk home. Thanks a lot for the ride, more firmly. And we close the door and we walk and he's still driving. We're still walking this whole time. And he just drives really slowly and like just creeps away. And we're still walking. and then we get to the front where the grocery store is, and he's in the parking lot, and he's turned left, and so we turn, or sorry, right. I don't know my right and left hands. He turned right, so we turn right to walk in the same direction as him. We actually have to go left, but we don't want him to know what direction we're going in. And so we wait and we walk just really slowly right in front of the grocery store, going right. And he exits and he heads right. And so then, as soon as he turns right onto the road, we hightail it and we start walking left. And he pulls a U-ey in the middle of the road so that he can go left again. And we were like, okay, this guy means some serious business. We were freaked the fuck out. So we ended up running through. There was a big strip that was owned by CP Rail that had it was a unused strip of railway land, and so we walked along that because you couldn't really get anywhere near. The road didn't come anywhere near. So if he stopped the car and got out, we'd be far enough away. And then we cut through the cemetery, which I thought was maybe not a good idea because everybody in the cemetery are people you don't want to meet. But anyways, we managed to make it home, and we called my mom and told her what happened, and somebody drove me home, and I was fine, and I didn't get abducted. But that's the story of my near abduction. I know some of the stories don't have very good climaxes because I'm still alive. You don't want every story to have a great climax because some of them are terrible, and you really don't want that to happen to me. There you go. Did I do the whole show without a glitch? Did I? Do you know what? Do you know what? I brought this out. Look, did I do a whole show without a? You have to tell me. Okay, I'm just gonna do it. Right? Let's count on the count of 3. I'm gonna tear it up. 1, 2. Well, motherfuckers! Good riddance to you, glitch. Nobody invited you to my party. Woohoo! Suck it, glitch. That was genius. Okay, I want to remind you that you can always send me an email at michaelvsmith.com, and you can tweet at michaelvsmith. I really like it when people take selfies. And look, I have some freaking amazing selfies for you today. These are really great. Okay, this is my friend Dusk, whose birthday it was. Remember I told you, stop telling me that there's somebody moving near my porch. Look, there's Dusk, whose birthday it was. He said it was a bad picture of him, so he knows I'm going to share it. This is my friend, Catherine, my running buddy. She sent me a little heart hands. That's so sweet. Well, you've seen her face already. Here's my friend, Mikey Sexton, Serpentine, who I adore, with some hunky monkey who I don't think I've met, but it's hard to tell in a picture. But whew, being cloistered with him. This is a picture I took of a painted rock on my run today, but they didn't send me that. This is my favorite one. Are you ready for this? I think it's okay to share this. I didn't ask. Okay, maybe I'll wait and I'll ask tomorrow. Oh, I better ask tomorrow. Oh, well, that's an anniversary. That's a good anniversary present. You can do that tomorrow. Okay, if you want to ask me questions, I'm going to answer them later, but I'm going to pick my story for the people who are bored and just want to go away. But are you ready? We're going to get the story out of the magic story bag. What's tomorrow's story going to be for the 3rd anniversary? Oh, Jesus. Every time it's a special day, I pick something really hard. But funny. This one's kind of funny. It's my last night drunk. Oh, I've got some really good life advice in that story. I love that story. So I want to remind people who are going to disappear that you can email me selfies, which is great. You can send me little notes if you want to send notes too. You can have story suggestions if you want to ask me some questions that might fuel stories. Who knows? I'm going to need suggestions eventually, though I've been accumulating new ones. You can like, share, and subscribe, and you can click the notification bell. So there, that's all the business that I need to do. And, here's your selfie if you want to pause it later. Okay, now let's ask some of the questions for the fans that are out there. That's not a question, that's a statement. Oh, Randy Widger, who knows how to pronounce the last name except him and his family. Randy, you can see it here if you're following along, but maybe not, wants to know who my designer is. I don't have a designer. I am a self-made woman. Um, Things I make myself, things I find, places, things that I, whatever. What flavor of Blizzard do you like? Asks Thomas Thacker. My favorite Blizzard, the only one I eat without gagging or regretting my decision, is the Oreo cookie Blizzard, which is kind of like cannibalism because cookie is my drag name. But you are what you eat. Oreo cookie Blizzard. And I really like it when it's all mixed up. I don't like getting the Oreo cookie and then there's it's big chunks of cookies. I want all that brown, black cookie, crumbly shit all mixed together. Jesus. You can always tell when it's new girls. Well, not girls necessarily, but you know what I mean. Because they give you these things and then you're like, it should have been mixed up more. Fuego wants to know how many curlers I use to set my wig. Well, it's just this weird little strip. I don't know where I got it, but sometimes I would wear it around my neck like a collar. And if I use hairspray, I can make it all stand like absolutely straight. And then it becomes this weird sort of like halo. This halo of hair. It's so creepy. I was excited because it was my anniversary and I thought I was glitch free because I did my I'm gonna test it in the afternoon and have a poop test, and it worked. So I thought, okay, I'll just wear my crazy hair because who cares how ugly I look on a day like today. Was the other Michael gay? No, he was a straight guy. And I have other stories with Michael in it that are in our bag that I'm waiting for. So I'll tell you more about that later. Oh, and Stephen James says, I was almost abducted the same way when I lived in Toronto. So glad that I'm safe. I'm glad you're safe too, Stephen James. Okay, well, that's all the questions for today. I had a great time. I love that you're here. Thank you for sending me notes. I say it every night, but it really is lovely that people send me notes. And, I'm in love with the world. And it's very just, whatever. I don't want to get verklempt, but I'm just amazed that all of you are here. I can't believe people actually watch these. And it's thrilling that I get to, I don't know, just do this because it's a lot of fun. Anyways, I'm sort of rambling because I'm trying to find something nice to say what's in my heart. But my heart's just a feeling, and the feeling is this. I love people. That feeling. So I love you. See you all later. See you tomorrow for my last night drunk. It's a goodie. Invite all your alcoholic friends to watch it. That'd be a good night to tell them, oh, just watch the show. It's so great. I don't remember what the story is. This will fix them. Mwah.